Today we're joined by award-winning journalist and presenter Kay McGrath. Kay says, I've made significant progress on the ladder of maturity. We're living longer, healthier lives in Queensland, and it's never too early or late to start thinking about planning for a bright future. Now, aged 66, after working on a series of stories entitled Aging Well in Queensland, she is keenly interested in the challenges of gracefully getting older and has joined the movement to reframe aging. As Kay's gotten older, she's grown into herself and feels more comfortable and confident. That's a very powerful statement, particularly for someone who's spent years in the media spotlight, where there is pressure on women to look youthful and keep their figures. Hello and welcome to another episode of Ironing Out the Wrinkles. I'm your host, Kate Shaw.
And I'm your other host, Ros McMaster. Together we're taking the age out of ageism and helping men and women embrace the second stage of life with less fear. Kay has interviewed Prime Ministers, Governors General, Premiers, politicians, and been on the front line of numerous historic events, for which she received the Qld Clarion Award for Most Outstanding Contribution to Journalism. A long-time committed child protection campaigner, in 2017, Kay was awarded an OAM in recognition of her work in media and child protection. She recently joined the ranks of Australia's Chief Executive Women. Kay is a patron of the Daniel Morcombe Foundation, patron and co-founder of Protect All Children Today, and a lifetime ambassador for Act for Kids. She is also a founding member of Women in Media Queensland and sits on the committee. From 2017 to 21, Kay chaired and then co-chaired the Queensland State Government Domestic and Family Violence Protection Council, which was established following the landmark Not Now, Not Ever report headed by Dame Quinton Bryce. Kay, hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, Ros. Hello, Kate.
Hi.
It's lovely to be with you. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I tell you what, if lettuce ever turns out to be fattening, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
As you said, there was pressure over the years to keep the kilos off, but so I've eaten a lot of lettuce in my time. You two are looking great, and I really congratulate you on tackling this with your podcast. How exciting.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Kay. And I'm not eating a skerrick of lettuce.
I eat tons because I'm a vegetarian. I love it. I'm addicted to lettuce.
Yeah, but thank you for joining us too. And we know you've come out of taken time out of a domestic violence council meeting to come and be here with us. So let's keep it light and bright, because that subject is
Very heavy.
It's sadly very heavy and a social issue, one of many that you're involved with, that affects people all over the world. So, yeah.
And there's an intersection with a lot of these issues, Ros, too. We can touch briefly on elder abuse, for instance. But I'm with you. Let's keep it light and bright. Throw me a curly question.
Oh,
What do you got?
Okay. Yeah. Do you grow your own lettuces or do you buy them?
I have been known to do that, yes. My partner, Richard, and I, he's transitioned seamlessly from Brisbane to the Sunshine Coast hinterland. I'm struggling, and I'm up and down. I commute between Brisbane and the sunny coast. But there are vegetable plots there. The attention they receive sort of fluctuates. But yeah, we have been known to grow a few crunchy lettuce leaves, amongst other things.
Yum.
It's a great pastime. I can really recommend it. And of course, with the cost of living these days, why not?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Mm.
Well, now, as Kate said in the intro, you recently produced a small series on the state of aging in Australia, and I was going to ask what prompted you to do that, but you've actually been involved in aging projects for a while now too. That wasn't your first foray. So why the interest in aging?
Because I've been running fast and I can't outpace it. It's coming for all of us if we're lucky enough. Like you ladies, I'm sure, I've lost a few good friends along the way. So it is a privilege to be inhabiting a 66-year-old body. And it's a lived experience, and it's one that has intrigued me. I like to learn as much as I can about the process to try and, as you quoted, and I think I stole this from Jane Fonda, ascend the ladder of maturity with as much flexibility, grace, style as I possibly can. And it's hard work. It is hard work. So I saw an opportunity with Channel 7 to pitch the idea of a look at how we can age well. And, you know, the 6 p.m. news didn't give me a great deal of freedom. I had to keep the stories to about 2 minutes each, and there were 3 of them. And honestly, I could have filled easily an hour doco, and I mean, that's been done many times and hopefully will be done again. But I found it really enlightening. I learned a lot. And, you know, it did hit home with me up until, well, it just really became more of a reality. I thought, well, this aging business really happens to other people, or death and dying happens to other people.
Yeah.
But it's a reality, it's coming for us. And one of the biggest takeaways was we should have a plan. We need to have a plan. And if you haven't got one already, start thinking about it seriously.
So a plan before you actually retire.
Or how to age.
A plan for death, a plan for everything, really.
All of the above.
Yeah.
All of the above. I'm a big one for talking about it. Am I good for putting things into action? Not always.
No, at least you try.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm struggling with this transitioning from full-time work into whatever retirement looks like. And I really resist that word. When I signed off from the news desk, I said, I'm not retiring, I'm repurposing.
You got a new chapter.
Yeah, it is a new chapter, that's right. And it's very important that we have a plan for that step, because to go from 110 Ks on the highway to putting your indicator on and pulling off the freeway, where are you going? What's it going to be like when you get there? You know, what is your plan? So I really would encourage anybody who's thinking about retiring or stepping away from full-time work to really sit and contemplate and line up their ducks and make sure that they have a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Exactly.
What's your purpose? I think that's the key. We're hearing this word purpose. It's everywhere at the moment, and it's a great word. I really like the word purpose. Purposing connection, 2 of my drivers, and I think it's really important that we keep our friendship group tight and we nourish that. It's a bit like, you know, the vegetable patch up on the sunny coast. We have to fertilize and water, and
absolutely,
keep that nourished. And we need a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, we've actually got another guest coming to talk to us about just that. She helps women to make a plan, because a lot of women, they, you know, really look forward to retirement and they imagine all these playing tennis and lunching with their friends, and then they retire and they realize there's 24 hours in a day and the tennis game took an hour out of that. And then what now? Yeah. So
and they probably have so many skills and knowledge and abilities.
A lot of men don't want to retire either. Like my husband's in his mid-70s. There's no way he ever wants to retire. He's lucky he's got his health. He can do that. For me, I don't want to retire either. I just change what I'm doing now, which is good. You've got freedom to actually look at other things you can do and also contribute maybe a little bit more, which you're doing heaps of.
And I think that's a key, Kate, is the freedom, the choice, you know, that we're not slaves to the office or
exactly
empowered,
stuck in the traffic jams every day, and
and so with that running of the series, why do you think it was that they wouldn't give the airtime? I mean, as far as audience for the news, young people are all over social media now. So I think older people are the one you target audience for watching the 6 o'clock news.
We're the biggest demographic, aren't we, really?
Absolutely, for that appointment viewing, as we call it. And the commercial networks have wised up to that, and I keep telling my news editor, I am your diversity. You know, to begin with, he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I am the elder in the newsroom. And that's what people want to see when they tune in at 6 o'clock. They want to see themselves reflected back. It wasn't so much, Ros, that they wouldn't give the time. It's simply the formula of a 6 p.m. news bulletin. And I'm sure you're both aware that our attention spans, they really have shrunk.
Yeah.
We want things in digestible bite-sized pieces these days. So it was my challenge to condense a content-rich subject down into 3 bite-sized pieces, and I broke it into trying to set up an overview, and I interviewed a beautiful centenarian, Joy Lloyd, who, by the way, did not recommend being 100.
Bless.
If she had a choice, she would have folded her cards a few years ago. And then I looked at the biggest transfer of intergenerational wealth in history that's coming down the pipeline, something like $3.5 billion, and all of the issues associated with that. And then thirdly, interviewed a really interesting professor at the University of Queensland about how we can disrupt this whole process of aging on various levels, particularly physical, but emotional and psychological. So those were the 3 little nuggets or little angles that I took to the story. But as I said, it really drove it home to me that my partner and I, should have a better plan about what we do once we sell the 4 acres, because there's going to come a day when we can't maintain it. What is that going to look like, and where will it be, and how will we see out our days?
Yes, so many of us can relate to that one, including me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I had my head in the sand for a while there, pretending it wasn't coming. I'm reading a good book at the moment by Oliver Burkeman. Have you heard about it? 4,000 Weeks.
No.
And it's time and how to use it. So that's roughly what we all get, is 4,000 weeks.
It's not much, is it, when you think about it? It's a bit scary.
And if we all stopped and counted the number of summers that we've got left, might be able to do that on 2 hands. Who knows?
Oh my gosh!
I don't know what's around the corner. But
no, you don't.
I think it's important to remain really positive. I think that's one of the keys to aging.
Very much so.
Yeah, yes. Definitely. At one stage, as far as your routine and how you're sort of moving through getting older, at one stage you began a study into mindfulness, and then that was interrupted when you had that offer from the then Governor Quinton Bryce. What was the reason for wanting to study mindfulness, and have you gone back to it?
I never left it, Ros. It goes back as far as 1979, and I can tell you where I was, and I can see it now. But I had moved to the Gold Coast to live on the Gold Coast, and some friends of mine gave me some tapes, and I put it in a tape recorder back in the day. And I listened. There were 3 tapes. They're called the Prosperity Tapes by 2 fellows from the Relaxation Centre in Brisbane, Lionel Fifield and Bert Weir. And, Oprah would say that was a light bulb moment, but the penny dropped. And I felt, after I'd listened to these tapes early in the morning, I felt like I was walking on a cloud. I had it all figured out, this whole business of life and living and how we manage it, done and dusted, put a bow around the box, you beauty. And then gradually, about 3 months later, I started to come off the cloud and realized that I had a revelation of sorts. I don't know, maybe a spiritual awakening or an enlightenment, but my view of the world changed. And so that was 1979. And I spent a bit of time at the Relaxation Centre learning how to meditate, or practicing how to meditate. Then, of course, you get married and you get distracted, career, children. So I wandered away from that study a little bit, and then came back to it once my boys could wipe their own bottoms and feed themselves. And I studied and I passed level 1 of mindfulness training. But as you said, I I need to continue my training in order to deliver the mindfulness training. And I did get distracted because I needed to place a lot of focus on the Domestic and Family Violence Prevention Council. And I can tell you, I drew on the learnings that I had in my mindfulness to deal, I guess, with the content that council was dealing with at the time. So I never really sort of left it, but you're quite right. I haven't picked up the formal training aspect yet, but I've got the certificate from level 1 up on my wall in my study in Brisbane, and I keep looking at it and thinking, I hope you're still relevant, and I'm going to get to level 2 soon.
Yeah, but the takeaway is that you're integrating it into your own life and practice, and
absolutely,
it keeps you grounded and peaceful in amongst the work that you're doing, which is really heavy.
I found it really valuable, and I do a lot of informal meditation. I'm pretty good at the formal, sitting and meditating, and I can really, really, really recommend it to anybody.
Me too. We do it, don't we? Yeah.
Well, the next level is I've done 2 10-day silent meditation retreats, and they are next level. Really, just
I don't know how I go in that because I love talking.
It's the most wonderful experience. You'd probably enjoy it because it would be a 10-day of
peace,
no phones, no technology, no meetings. Yeah.
And then suddenly you get in your car and you're back on the highway at 110 k's an hour, and it's
yeah. Well, no, it wouldn't be like that. It wouldn't be like that. You'd be
serene. Yeah. Well, you've done it. You'd
be in the slow lane.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, with aging and your involvement with community issues, did you change your view what it means to get older, and unexpected insights you had along the way between Australia, overseas, cities and rural communities? Did you find all pretty much the same, or?
Oh no, I think there's huge differences can be found around the world. I'm not an expert on this, ladies, at all, and I really wasn't able to go into that purely because of time constraints. But from my limited knowledge, I would love to have touched on the blue zones. You would have heard about the blue zones and Dan Buettner and National Geographic. And what we can learn from those areas around the world in Sardinia, Greece, Japan, Loma Linda in the US, and there's one more that I forget. But when they looked at these communities, they found that and they looked at them because this is where the high population of centenarians were found, and it comes down again to that sense of connection. Isolation, as you would know, is one of the biggest killers, and the UK have got their own minister for loneliness. So that's being acknowledged and understood better here in Australia. So that connection with their community, that multi-generational living, centenarians and newborns coming together in the community, and also they stay active. And unlike me, who's already planning the next step after the 4 acres, a lot of these centenarians still work the land, or they still are very physically active. So, and of course their diet is different to ours, I would suggest. They can't just drive into the drive-through and pick up their food. It's plant-based, and they probably walk to the garden to pick their leaves and walk back to the kitchen to prepare it. So there's differences certainly to be found around the world, but it's interesting. Different attitudes. And of course, living in rural and remote communities brings its own challenges, access to services, again, that sense of isolation, which is huge. And that all has repercussions on our health span as well as our lifespans. So it's interesting, we if we are able, not everybody is as blessed as we are, to be as healthy as we currently are, to perhaps have as much wealth as we do, to be living in a peaceful beautiful environment
Yeah.
like Queensland in Australia. I mean,
Very
how
blessed.
lucky are we?
Mm.
We are truly blessed. So where we age has a significant impact. What race we are, what gender we are, all of those factors sort of line up. So we are very fortunate, I think, in this country.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm going to take you back to an article in the Courier Mail in 2015 where you said, you're not going to get into trouble here. You might not remember it, but I'm sure you still feel the same way. You said, while there were definitely pressures and expectations of how women should look in public, especially on television, outward appearances could also be affected by how a person felt about themselves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you would agree with me as well. I mean, if you feel like shit and crap on the inside, if your self-esteem is low, if you feel depressed, if you feel anxious, if you feel fearful, that is going to show outwardly. Not always, you know, it may not be obvious to everybody, and a lot of people can carry that off, I guess. I always used to say to my boys, you know, never judge a person by their outward appearance. You just scratch beneath the surface. Everybody has some sort of suffering, some burden, some worry, some fear. We're all the same human beings. Some people just carry it better than others.
Showtime.
It's showtime, absolutely. And we all put a different lens on when we wake up in the morning. One of my favorite exercises, which I attempt to do every morning, and I'm sure you do too, and the listeners would, is the gratitude. And that when I wake, and if I'm up on the sunny coast, I can tune into the birds, which is just a beautiful environment. And so I'm grateful for the birds. I'm grateful to be living in this part of the world. And just count even 3 things that you're really grateful for. That can set you up for the day on the inside. And then you can go out and project it to the world and to your loved ones. And I find that's a really good way to set ourselves up.
Absolutely. But, your life feels so abundant when you practice gratefulness.
We can go speeding by all of these wonderful things that surround us and not be paying attention at all. And I think that was part of my awakening back in 79, was just becoming more aware of how fortunate I was and still am, and the opportunities, and also being aware that we are all in this together.
Yeah.
Everybody is dealing with something. Life is hard.
Yeah, it's very hard, isn't it?
It's how we tackle it. You know, and aging is inevitable, but how we age can be a choice. I mean, I know it's not always easy if you don't have those entitlements, you know, and if you don't have a lot of money, if you're couch surfing at the age of 80, which the Age Discrimination Commissioner told me a story about a woman who's couch surfing at 80, for goodness sake.
Yes.
But if you're not that privileged, it can be clearly difficult. But I still believe it's how we process, how we accept it, how we view the world has a huge impact on how we age.
Yeah, well, how we get through life, no matter what age, really.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, in your industry, and mine too, I find, which I do unfortunately feel is a little bit ageist. I don't know about you, but what's been your experience with ageism, and how do you combat it?
Good question, Kate.
Give me some tips, please.
Well, you know, it's all in your timing, I find, and I think we have been fortunate, really, and we're riding this baby boomer wave. There's is it 7 billion baby boomers in the world?
Yeah, there are.
But I know in Queensland, like something like there'll be 1.8 million people over the age of 65.
Which has never happened, has it? Ever?
No, that's right.
No.
So we're alive at a very good time.
Yeah.
We're living longer, and we're living healthier lives. So in my industry, in the fickle world of television, commercial television, timing's pretty good. Previously, women certainly had a shelf life. And I witnessed a number of my colleagues drive down the mountain from the studios because their use by date had expired. Whereas the blokes, of course, as we know, gain more gravitas and authority.
So true.
And they can
the
sprout
attitude.
those hairs and,
Go grey.
put on a few kilos. So that discrimination is still there, no matter what your age. Women, we started back with lettuce.
Yes.
Eating a lot of lettuce. That is still a very real pressure. And it does sadden me that the number of outward facing women in my industry are of a certain style, age, stage, and they're white predominantly. But things are changing and more women are being allowed to age in front of the camera. A colleague of mine couldn't wait to get back from the corner office. This is a number of years ago because we were both in our 40s. And she couldn't wait to tell me the conversation she'd had with the general manager. And she dropped this line that both Kay and I plan to be on television when we're 50. And there was a pregnant pause and he said, on or in?
Oh,
She said,
no.
on, in front of the camera when we're 50. So I'm now 66. And I chose to get off that news desk because I wanted more freedom. I didn't want those deadlines. But I am still filing reports. They're not always about older Australians, on issues to do with older Australians. I can file a report on anything that I can pitch to the news editor. So it is changing, Kate, at a glacial pace. And there is a cohort of older women that when you look around all the networks, it is a bit tokenism at the moment. But then we've got to make way for the young ones to come through as well. So it's just finding that balance. I think your industry is probably even more cutthroat.
And the advertisers as well they're usually run by younger people, I find. And so therefore they're probably less likely to think of my age group unless they look a certain way.
Yes. So I guess we're finding our own sort of lane, our own niche to operate in. But then this of course brings us back to this whole huge issue of ageism, where you separate the generations, and
which is sad. I love younger generations.
It becomes combative.
It does. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, them and us.
It's a difficult one, and I don't know what the answer is, but I have taken the age discrimination for her advice, which is be old and bold. So in your very kind and generous intro, you said that I think that I had embraced the maturity, and I have, and that's a really encouraging thing for younger women, particularly, I think. And I really try to mentor as many younger women as I can for them and encourage them to find their power. And it's a pity that we have to hit our 50s, 60s, 70s before we truly feel comfortable in our skins and understand our power and find our voices. I think that's often the way for many women in particular, and men, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, it's really important to mentor those younger women now because, like with the point you made earlier, if you're internally feeling like shit, no matter what's coming at you, good opportunities or otherwise, you're not going to embrace them. So the sooner we can get young women feeling empowered to step into embracing the second stage
and not be
of life.
frightened. Yes, a lot of people are fearful.
Yeah.
You know, when you turned 50, was that a magic age for you? Did that make you reassess your priorities? Because it did for me. Oh, it did for
Did
me.
it?
You'd already done it. Yeah, I was
No,
sleepwalking before.
I was much later than you, Kate. No,
Oh,
50 was the new 30, wasn't it?
oh
So
no,
I was
50
only
was
30
brilliant
back
for
then.
me. It was a big slap I got at 50 from my then boss, a doctor who
Oh,
told
really?
me,
Oh, do you want
yeah,
to share that?
he's a cosmetic surgeon. He said to me, I hope you're doing everything you want to do, because I had quite a good career before I had kids singing. And I thought one day, and because of him saying, well, most ladies die in their 80s, and I thought, oh my goodness, I've been married that long and it's not that long. So I'm grateful for him saying those words to me, because I wouldn't have gone back. I wouldn't have gone to the con. I wouldn't have looked up to teacher. I would be putting it off until one day. So 50 for me was good for me. It was my wake up call. Mm.
Okay, well, you're ahead of me.
So when was
You are
yours?
ahead of me. I've been in a coma, clearly.
Not at all. I wouldn't say that.
I think my wake up call is happening now. It's about being open and having these conversations, and it's about doing those stories and the realization. I mean, the penny is slowly dropping for me. Holy dooly, this is happening to me, and we only have 4,000 weeks or however many summers left. So you better get your skates on, and you better start prioritizing. And as I mentioned earlier, really sharpen that plan. So no, 50. I sort of glossed over, convincing myself that I was bulletproof and was, life would just roll on.
You didn't have my boss in your life. That's the trouble.
I had some pretty mean bosses, let me tell you.
Oh. Poor you.
Who taught me other lessons, but no, I think I'm waking up now. This is, I think 60. 65, yeah. 70 is going to be a big one.
70 is looming
it's
for me.
going to be a
I've
big
got
one.
it
You'll be invited
this year.
to my party.
Well, I'm 70 in
fabulous.
May. I'd love to come to your party. I'm
not.
70 in May. I am. I can't believe
Okay,
it.
and how do you feel about that?
I can't believe it, and I think I feel good about it. I'm still here. Had cancer like Roz, and yeah, I'm grateful now. And knowing Roz, I've had and picked all these wonderful people on this podcast. I actually think it's a real gift to be turning 70. I've finally come around to that. I was into denial 6 months ago, almost not telling anyone I'm going to be 70, but now I'm
yes, she's had a big turnaround just since we did the podcast.
I know, I'm actually saying out loud, I'm 70 this year. Yeah. Hey, you're lucky me. And I've got lots of friends who haven't got there. But you did. You mind me asking you this? I remember you had a health scare in 2018. Did that impact you with the Ross?
Oh, the Ross River. Yeah, it did. And but not nearly as badly as, I did a bit of research and dived into that subject, and there's a lot of people who suffer very badly from that, and are really incapacitated. Yeah, and actually not long after I contracted it, one of my colleagues in the newsroom also got it, and it really affected her ankles. She was unable to actually get out of bed and walk.
Wow.
So that was a huge impact on her. She's fully recovered now and gone on, had 2 babies, and is having a good life. Yes, it does pull you up, because again, I've been sailing along thinking I'm bulletproof, and I think sitting on that news desk for so many years, reading stories about other people, and having the fortunate life that I have had, it just was a wake up call, that your health is so important, and it is really imperative that we look after ourselves and be kind to ourselves and nurture our vessels, our bodies, because these are the only ones we've got.
So what is your routine for looking after the vessel? The temple, I call it the temple.
Well, Richard and I have just come out, finished strongly in the dry February.
Wow, we did that in January. Yeah.
It's February's a shorter month. So
that's
how we do it.
I should have done that. Good, isn't it?
Because it's just too easy to go for that glass of wine that you feel you've earned. One turns into 2, and it's really not very good for your temple at all. all things in moderation. That said, I am trying to exercise every day. Richard is a walker and he religiously walks every day. We walk for about an hour. I don't always walk for an hour. I do Pilates. Over the years, many years, I had a personal trainer. And again, I was fortunate enough I was able to pay for that privilege. But I think that really set me up. I think it's important that we do weight training. It's vital that we stay strong into our elderhood. I always remember the gym owner. He was a former Mr. Universe, and he could bench press more at the age of 75 than a lot of these young guys who were coming into the gym. And he would say, Kay, just stay strong as you age, stay strong. So build muscles, stay strong, which lessens your risk of fall, which, as we know, is a big risk factor as we climb that ladder of maturity. So hang on to the handrail.
That's why I like Pilates, because that's good for balance, isn't it? I do that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I've found with the commute that I can't keep those PT sessions. So I found a fabulous Pilates studio up on the Sunshine Coast, and I've just got to be disciplined when I'm in the big smoke and either, have some PT sessions or find another Pilates. So yes, I think that's a great thing to do. And of course, we watch our diet. I'm trying to eat more along the Mediterranean diet lines. And it's a conscious effort to get those serves of fruit and veg in every day. But these days they've made it easier and we can take supplements. So, and I'm reading another book at the moment, Young Forever. Have you heard of that by Mark
No.
Hyman?
Oh,
Really
that sounds
fascinating.
good.
It's a bit dense. But talks about all the science around aging, and it's really exciting what they're discovering, and what are the drivers of longevity and how we can.
Dr. Li's like that too. Dr. Lee or Dr. Li. Have you looked him up on YouTube? He talks about diet and anti-aging things. Simple terms for someone like me.
And again, a lot of it is up here as well. It's our attitudes.
Mindset.
Aging is mandatory. How we do it is a choice.
Yeah. I read somewhere that if you think younger, it can actually take 8 years off your biological age. I don't know if that's true.
That was one of the really fascinating things that I found from doing the stories. And that research came out of Yale University in the US by Professor Beck Levy. And Ashton Applewhite would talk about that. But yeah, that has really stayed with me. If we act our chronological age, if we believe the stereotypes about aging, then that can shave 8 years off your life. Isn't that remarkable? Because we think, oh, well, I'm 66, so I cut myself a break and I can have that extra piece of cheesecake, or I can't be bothered going to the gym today. I'm not going to go for a walk. It's too hot. And so that mindset sort of sneaks in and takes over. And before you know it, you've thrown in the towel and it's a slippery slope. Goodbye. So there we go. Don't believe your chronological. Don't act your age.
No, don't act
Everybody
your age. We don't.
Not to act their age.
And don't you think meditation's also a bit anti-aging? That's been proved to slow down the aging in the body. Yes.
Yep.
And we all do that.
Yeah,
definitely. Aren't we good? Aren't we terrific?
Aren't we fantastic? We're trying anyway, doing our best. That's all we can do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And be kind.
Well, that's right. That is
kind
right.
to each other.
Be kind to others, but also, most importantly, be kind to yourself.
That's not easy as women.
Here.
Yeah.
So as we wind up, we don't want to keep you from your meeting any longer because we know you're in a hurry to get back there. I was going to ask what's next for Kay McGrath, but you kind of answered all that.
Pretty exciting.
I haven't got any. I'm still formulating this plan, Roz. It's a work in progress. No breaking news on this front yet, but it's forever striving to find the balance. I think that's what it is, and to stay connected and with purpose.
Yes,
and that purpose can change, but it's doing it on my terms, and that's where the power is, and that's what we've earned in our elderhood. I love that. Have you heard that? We have childhood, adulthood, and elderhood.
I'm going to start using
I like
it
that.
now.
I haven't heard that before.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
And someone said to me yesterday, you know, like we use that term, everything in moderation. They said moderation in moderation. So I'm just wondering, it seems like you're busy 24 hours a day. It's hard to imagine you putting on some tracksuit pants and putting your feet up and hand in the popcorn bowl while you watch TV.
And keeping your energy up. Yeah.
How do you actually
peaking.
relax? So there is downtime?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't be walking the talk if I wasn't kind to myself. Absolutely. It's all smoke and mirrors, Ros. I appear busier than I really am. No, you must practice self-care. It's vital, and I do it. Don't you worry. I get up after I've said my little gratitude, made my little gratitude list. My morning routine is, because Richard likes to sleep for Australia, so he's sleeping in. But the dog and I get up and make a cup of tea, and we go and sit outside, and that's the morning meditation. And this is when I'm up on the beautiful Sunshine Coast, particularly in nature, and that is so nourishing and empowering and, you know, energizing. So that is wonderful self-care, just to be still, to give yourself permission to be still and to reflect, and then gather yourself up and off you go and make a difference in the world.
Yes, I like that. That's what Oprah says. The biggest gift you can give yourself is time.
Yes. Yeah. And so just to finish off, we always ask guests, I didn't prepare you, but I don't think I need to. We ask some words of advice to anyone who might be struggling with moving through the second phase of life.
I was going to say ask for help, but that doesn't sound right. Reach out to your circle of trusted family and friends and tap into them. Share your struggles. I think that's really important. Don't suffer on your own. If you need to, find professional advice. I'm all for finding a good psychologist. It's a bit hard these days, I know, because the demand is huge, particularly post-COVID. But you know, we go to the gym and we tune up our bodies. I think everybody should go to a trained professional, maybe once a month or once every 6 months for a tune-up. And it's just about helping us align our outlook or define or sharpen our outlook on life and to develop those gratitude muscles. And that can help with those struggles. Yeah, because it can be confronting, can't it? Depending on your circumstances, you know. And if you have a chronic illness or ailment, I really feel for you. So my best advice, I guess, is to reach out. First of all, to trusted family and friends for support. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and if you need it, certainly find a good professional who can help you through that time, and know that things will improve. They will get better.